She never wanted to be the voice of a nation's grief. But when Belinda Murray stepped forward, her voice cracked the silence like glass under pressure. Not a politician. Not a spokesperson. Just a grandmother, shaking, sleepless, and utterly wrecked. Her words weren't polished. They weren't part of any press release. They were a cry. A siren. A mother's instinct sharpened by dread. "I'm terrified the babies are gone," she said. 6-year-old Lily. 4-year-old Jack. 2 tiny lives that vanished into nothing. And suddenly, the country remembered. Headlines had dulled. Theories had flooded comment sections. But Belinda's trembling voice snapped it all back into focus. This wasn't a mystery. This was a nightmare. From Halifax to Vancouver, the footage replayed like a national wound reopening. Her haunted eyes, the kind only grief can carve. Social feeds lit up again. Hashtags surged. The story, once fading, ignited all over again. Because when a grandmother gives up hope, what's left for the rest of us? Belinda spoke of dreams where Lily cried, but vanished before she could reach her. Of the pancakes Jack always begged for at sunrise. Of how the house, once loud with laughter, now sat still as a tomb. These weren't memories. They were confessions. And they cut deeper than any press briefing ever could. Because for the first time, this wasn't just a search, it was a reckoning. And Belinda's heartbreak marked the shift. The moment hope began to flicker. Words like ongoing investigation, active case, open file, they were repeated like a script, looped in press briefings to keep the public calm. But Belinda's voice cracked through that facade. Her heartbreak wasn't evidence. It wasn't in a sworn statement. But it carried a certainty, emotional, undeniable, that made millions stop and wonder, what if the worst had already happened? This was no longer just a mystery. This was a tragedy, unraveling in real time. And Belinda had just spoken the fear everyone else was too afraid to say out loud. With that, the tone shifted. May 2nd, 2025. A quiet spring morning on Gerlach Road, a narrow, forested stretch in rural Nova Scotia. No cars. No foot traffic. No noise. Just stillness. Until 9:47 a.m. That's when the 911 call came in. 2 children. Lily, 6. Jack, 4. Gone. Their stepfather, 35-year-old Daniel Martel, told police it was just a moment. A distraction. A few minutes, he claimed. Then, the sliding glass door was open. And the kids were gone. Too simple. That was the word floating around. Too clean. They were in pajamas. No shoes. No jackets. No sounds of struggle. No barking from the family dog, a dog known to be fiercely alert. Just an open door, and a silence that's only grown louder since. The terrain outside wasn't a yard, it was wilderness. Uneven, treacherous, tangled with brush, sharp culverts, and dense forest. Not a place barefoot toddlers could simply wander through undetected. But that's what Daniel said happened. He told police he searched. Called out their names. Checked ditches and trees. Then, after 30 minutes, he called 911. 30 minutes. In a child abduction case, that's an eternity. And investigators knew it. They started pulling threads fast, checking the home's layout, inspecting for forced entry, speaking to neighbors. No broken locks. No sign of struggle. No screams. Nothing on surveillance. And again, no bark from the family dog. It didn't add up. How do 2 small children disappear, without a sound, in the middle of a peaceful morning? And though theories still cling to the official narrative, that they simply wandered off, something about the story has never truly settled. Not with the public. Not with investigators. And not with Belinda. The door may have been open, but what it opened into was something far darker than anyone imagined. In the immediate aftermath of Lily and Jack Sullivan's disappearance, one detail stood at the center of everything: the sliding glass door. According to their stepfather, Daniel Martel, it was wide open. The supposed exit. A portal into the woods. A quiet, unalarming escape. But as investigators dug deeper, that door transformed from a simple explanation into a haunting question mark. From a forensic standpoint, nothing supported Daniel's account. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police found no footprints. Not in the dewy morning grass. Not in the soft soil near the edge of the property. Not even on the driveway's moist earth. No crushed twigs. No bent weeds. No signs of a struggle. No trace that two small, barefoot children had wandered, or been carried, into the dense forest. Then there was the dog. The family's mixed-breed pet, known across the neighborhood for its aggressive barking at delivery trucks and animals, had remained utterly silent. No bark during Daniel's alleged moment of distraction. No warning growl as the children supposedly slipped away. Not even a whimper after they vanished. To the investigators, that silence wasn't comforting, it was deafening. But the gaps didn't stop there. There were no witnesses. No neighbors saw the children. No passing drivers reported anything unusual. And perhaps most damning of all, not a single second of security footage showed Lily or Jack near the house, on the road, or even in the vicinity. Despite nearby homes equipped with doorbell cams and motion-triggered wildlife cameras, there was nothing. As days passed, the sliding door theory began to crack. What once seemed plausible in the haze of panic and hope now looked brittle, a story too thin to stand. The public, once sympathetic, began to ask harder questions. Could it really be that simple? Or was the door not a way out, but a distraction? And if it wasn't the children who opened it, who did? While these questions stirred the nation, another figure quietly slipped out of focus, almost unnoticed. Malia Brooks Murray. The children's mother. She had been home on the morning of May 2nd. She was there when Lily and Jack disappeared. But not long after the story exploded, after media vans lined Gerlach Road and the world demanded answers, she vanished too. No press conference. No television appearance. No tearful plea for her children's return. Instead, she left Nova Scotia, taking her infant daughter with her, and retreated beyond the reach of local investigators. No goodbyes. No statements. Just silence. The kind of silence that echoes. The kind that leaves more questions than answer. Instead of stepping in front of cameras, she stepped behind a lawyer. Malia Brooks Murray, the mother of Lily and Jack, made it clear through legal counsel that she would not be speaking directly to investigators or the media. A choice fully within her rights. But in the eyes of a grieving public, it felt like a scream wrapped in silence. The RCMP confirmed her refusal to cooperate. Confirmed her departure from Nova Scotia. And while they stopped short of naming her a suspect, they made one thing very clear: her silence wasn't helping. Her absence cast a heavy fog over a case already drowning in uncertainty. And online, the reaction was instant and brutal. Was she traumatized? Hiding something? Protecting someone? Speculation turned viral. Some theories held weight. Others spiraled into the dark corners of social media rabbit holes. But one truth stood unshaken: when her voice was needed most, Malia vanished. And in her silence, shadows grew. Questions about the morning of May 2nd twisted into knots. What did she see? What did she hear? What does she remember, now, weeks later? Investigators still hold out hope. That time, or guilt, or sheer pressure, might bring her back to the table. But for now, Malia remains at the edge of this tragedy, silent, shielded, and suspiciously absent. By late May 2025, the tone of the investigation had changed. What once began as a frantic search for missing children, now bore the marks of something far darker. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police made it official: the case was no longer classified as a disappearance. It was now a criminal investigation. And it had been handed over to the Major Crimes Unit. This wasn't procedural. This was a statement. The RCMP believed something terrible had happened. With the reclassification came a new urgency. Search teams returned to the woods around the Sullivan home. But this time, with stricter forensic protocols, specialized personnel, and no illusions. Drones scanned from above. K-9 units combed untouched terrain. For days, nothing. No bodies. No clothing. No trace. So they turned to the digital trail. Metadata. Call logs. GPS. Every electronic fingerprint tied to the family was pulled apart. Daniel Martel, the stepfather, became a focal point. His phone records. His texts. His movements on May 2nd, and in the days before, were put under a microscope. Messages between him and Malia were analyzed line by line. Investigators wanted to know, what were they talking about? Were there secrets? Was there tension? Were there plans? The RCMP even reached out to local businesses. Pulled footage from traffic cams, store security systems, even dashcams from passing vehicles, anything recorded between April 28 and May 2 on Gerlach Road or the surrounding highways. A single frame could break this case open. No arrests have been made. No charges filed. But the message was clear. This is no longer about finding lost children. This is about finding the truth, whatever it costs. For the tight-knit community along Gerlach Road, the reclassification wasn't a surprise, it was confirmation. This wasn't about two curious kids wandering into the forest. This was something else. Something intentional. Something criminal. And the RCMP made it clear, they weren't stopping until they uncovered exactly what. Then came the announcement that shifted the ground beneath the entire investigation. June 19, 2025. 6 weeks after Lily and Jack Sullivan vanished, the Nova Scotia government made a chilling declaration: they believe someone knows what happened. That belief came with a price tag, $150,000. The children's case was officially added to the province's major unsolved crimes list. A list reserved only for the most haunting, complex, and devastating investigations. The money wasn't a gesture. It was a signal. The timing, the amount, the bold public rollout, all pointed to one thing: the disappearance of Lily and Jack was no accident. It was a crime. A deliberate act. And now, justice had a number. At a press conference, RCMP spokesperson Sergeant Martin Desjardins spoke directly to the public. We're urging anyone, no matter how small the detail, to come forward. This is about justice, for two innocent children. The reaction was instant. Online platforms exploded. Reddit threads reignited. Twitter hashtags surged. TikTok speculated. Some believed the reward hinted that police had suspects, but no proof. Others feared it meant investigators were still grasping in the dark, praying someone on the outside would speak. Behind the scenes, RCMP continued to mine data: phone pings, GPS coordinates, travel timelines. Surveillance footage was reviewed again, frame by frame. But now, they were also watching the people. Everyone. Would a silent witness finally crack? Would someone trade knowledge for the reward? Or would a guilty conscience finally break? Meanwhile, pressure mounted. News outlets ran special reports. Activists and volunteers, many of whom had spent weeks in the woods, called for answers. For them, the reward wasn't about money. It was a final, desperate plea. Because someone out there knows. And now, there's $150,000 on the table. A price for the truth, or maybe, for guilt too heavy to carry any longer. But as the case dragged on, hope and heartbreak gave way to something colder, angrier. The search for Lily and Jack had become more than a mission. It was now a movement. A digital storm. Social media, live streams, podcasts, YouTube breakdowns, all zeroed in on one question: what really happened that morning? Reddit threads became battlefields. Facebook groups turned into forensic echo chambers. In one true crime podcast, the host dissected every interview Daniel Martel had ever given, comparing his earliest words to his latest. Why, they asked, did he describe Jack's pajamas in detail, if he claimed he never saw him that morning? Why refer to what happened, instead of what might have happened? These weren't throwaway observations anymore. They were becoming the new narrative. Rewritten not by journalists or law enforcement, but by the public. Supporters rallied. Friends and neighbors defended Daniel and Malia. Trauma distorts memory, they argued. Grief doesn't follow a script. But for the rest of the nation, watching with bated breath. Grief wasn't the only thing in the air anymore. Suspicion was rising. And it was starting to stick. Supporters of the family warned that online sleuths were going too far, turning a painful tragedy into a digital witch hunt. They reminded everyone of the one fact that should have mattered most: 2 innocent children were still missing. But the skeptics pushed back, hard. They pointed to what they called undeniable signs: the lack of physical evidence, the abandoned ground search, the timeline full of gaps. And Malia's quiet departure without a single public plea? It didn't just raise eyebrows, it lit a fire. Soon, whispers became accusations. Social media morphed into a lawless courtroom, where speculation turned into soft guilt, and the search for Lily and Jack gave way to public judgment against those closest to them. Truth blurred with theory. Hope wrestled with suspicion. And the line between empathy and outrage vanished into noise. Meanwhile, time, the one thing that can never be recovered, slipped away. By late June 2025, more than 180 tips had poured in. Over 35 interviews were conducted. The RCMP, alongside forensic experts and external agencies, picked apart every digital trace they could find: phone records, search history, GPS logs, even deleted messages. But the result was the same as it had been on day one: no children. No clothing. No remains. No sign. The pink blanket found early on was never linked. The boot prints? Inconclusive. Even a sticker once believed to be a clue held no forensic value. Lily and Jack were still nowhere. Behind the scenes, investigators acknowledged what no one wanted to say aloud: the silence was suffocating. Every day without answers didn't just stall the investigation, it chipped away at the soul of a grieving community. The house had been searched. The forest combed. The story retold and reshaped. And still, no arrests. No resolution. That $150,000 reward now hovered like a ghost. A symbol of both hope and haunting. It told the world this wasn't just a disappearance. This was a suspected crime. And someone, somewhere, might already know the truth, but refuses to speak it. Frustration grew. Podcasts dissected every second. TikTok theories gained millions of views. Journalists demanded transparency. The noise got louder. But the RCMP, bound by the limits of an active criminal investigation, revealed little. No leaks. No speculation. Just silence. And the clock kept ticking. Now, only one question remains. Will someone come forward before it's too late? Will a witness, a bystander, a guilty conscience, finally speak? Because time is running out. Lily and Jack's story has moved beyond a missing persons case, it's a criminal mystery. One steeped in doubt, drenched in grief, and burning with urgency. The world is watching. And for now, we wait, not for a theory, but for the truth.